We do intentionally say no to bigger enterprises. There's governments, there's very large corporates that want to use Tally. We're just not equipped. So we just say no, somehow leave money on the table there. We intentionally chose forms because we knew they were viral by nature and they could sell themselves. We don't have funding rounds to announce, we just have our revenue milestones that we can share. Our competitors cannot do this because they're VC backed, the numbers are not public. We're bootstrapped, so we're not VC funded. We're an independent, very small team based in Belgium.
Marie, thank you so much for joining me and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm actually really happy, as I told you before, to have you here today because Tally is actually a product I've been using and following for a long time. And it's also one that comes up a lot in conversation with founders and product leaders here in France. So to get started, could you maybe tell us a bit more about Tally and what you're building today?
Yeah, of course. My name is Marie. I'm co-founder of Tally, and Tally is a very simple way to create online forms and surveys. As you said in the introduction, the product is used by over 1 million teams worldwide, and it's to build feedback forms, bug report forms, client satisfaction surveys, quizzes, anything that has to do with collecting data, you can basically build with Tally. We focus on having a very simple interface, so it looks very much like Notion. If you're a Notion user, you definitely see similarities. You just start typing from a blank page, and you can create any type of form with your keyboard. And something else we do a bit differently is that we offer unlimited forms and submissions for free. And we're bootstrapped, so we're not VC funded. We're an independent, very small team based in Belgium, Ghent. Yeah.
That's nice, such a story. As a user, when you use Tally for the first time, and I remember that, it feels like it's radically simple and yet like extremely powerful. What would you say are the product principles that help you make those trade-offs, basically? Because I guess you've had a lot of ideas and probably like a lot of feedbacks from your audience over the past years. Which product principles do you think have helped you?
Yeah, I'm glad you say it was radically simple because that's what we're going for. And I think the simplicity is kind of at the core of everything we do. And to be able to build and scale, a product that is used by a lot of people worldwide, you kind of have to keep things simple, especially if you want to do it with a small team. So it kind of comes back in everything we do product-wise. It really translates into a very clean interface, right? Like we want to keep the form building experience actually fun. And, if you look at form builders, traditionally, they're super boring. No one is like, hey, today I'm going to build a form, right? It's not sexy at all. So we thought if we can make that experience just a bit more fun, we could probably already find an audience that would get excited about that. And it goes from, actually, when we launched Tally, we didn't even have a landing page. You would just go straight into the builder. Right now we do have a website, but you still don't need to sign up to create a form. So you just go to tally.so, you want to try it out, you can just immediately start building. So there's like a very strong focus on offering as much value as fast as possible. Something that we also need to keep our product-led growth going. So you go straight in, and then it's basically a blank canvas, right? And this is something that not everyone likes, right? It's a bit of an opinionated product as well. Some people get lost. They're like, what am I doing? It's like a text document. How do I start? There's no drag and dropping. But the people who do get it really love the experience because you just use shortcuts and you insert blocks as you go. And that's a very, I would say, deliberate decision that we made. But we're kind of fine-tuning it constantly because we do see a lot of people struggling with it as well.
Sometimes.
And then there's also just the fact of if we build new features, we get tons of feature requests. I like to say we also actually listen and talk to our users every day. And so when we look at should we improve or build something new, we will always go can we keep it simple? So it can be powerful under the hood, but can we keep it easy to use? If yes, we will ship it. And can we do it in a fast way, right? Because we want to keep on moving and ship things every week. So those are some trade-offs. And the third one is, can we offer it for free? Because that's kind of how we grow. So that's how we try to keep things simple. But it also comes back in our pricing. We just have like one pricing tier that we focus on. All the rest is free. The way we work, how we communicate, everything is very simple. And that's a very, deliberate decision and way of working, just to be able to do this with a small team. And also because that's just the way we like to work.
Right, and thank you for that. And does it depend on your ICP? Because I guess like the way of using Tally can depend on like the person using it.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly. I was actually thinking of what could actually make that usage different. Is it a matter of age, for example? Like I feel like someone who is over 80 would be like struggling with Tally.
Yeah.
But that would be also maybe a matter of like just like tech savviness, someone like playing with a lot of these tools, or someone who doesn't. So how do you actually make sure I mean, is the ICP important, first question, and how do you make sure that the right ICP is actually using it?
How we've always seen it is that we're building this product for ourselves. So I have a background in marketing, but I also love to play around with new tools. Philip is an engineer, right? And so we've always been very strict about how do we optimize the product for the early users. And the early users were tech savvy, were people who loved Notion, were people that were not afraid, by the way the interface worked. And I feel like by sticking to that, we also said no to a lot of other users, but it did make us stand out in some way in the market. And so for us, it's always really important to optimize for that tech-savvy group of people. They're founders, they're product people, they might work in marketing, but they are not the office assistant who's 60 plus. She might get lost in Tally. And we do want to get those people as well by making the product even easier to use. But we've never really optimized for them in all transparency, because we even have like this word we call them mouse people. It's like the non-technical people that will use the mouse, right, to build.
Mouse people.
And that's if you do that, Tally is maybe less intuitive. So that's a challenge for us. But I think by heavily focusing on that one more tech-savvy group, we got known in the space. And those are also the people that are very vocal about the tools they use. And that's kind of how Tally has spread to a more mainstream audience, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember reading some of your articles saying that your main target was like probably indie hackers or like indie makers, like those people, like small founders. Is it still the case? I know, like I've seen people from like companies marketing, like working in marketing, using it. So I know this is not the only answer to that, but
it has changed. I think in the beginning, heavy focus on indie hackers, builders, solopreneurs. That's really the space in which we launched. And I think now, if we look at it, it is really more startup teams in general, smaller companies, and then product and marketing teams within those companies. So we do intentionally say no to bigger enterprises. There's governments, there's very large corporates that want to use Tally. We're just not equipped, to service those, and it's also something that doesn't give us energy. So we just say no, and somehow leave money on the table there. But that's the good thing about being bootstrapped, is that you can do that, and you can make your own decisions, even if it means that you might have less revenue, but maybe more fun.
Could you give us like what are some features that you consciously decided not to build, because we're talking about simplicity here, and making trade-offs, even though users were actually asking for them?
I think it was around year 2 or year 3 where we really narrowed our vision and just even wrote it down in one of our blog posts and said like, okay, we want to build a product that does one thing extremely well. And that's just a finely tuned piece of software that happens to be a form builder for us and does one thing very well, and that's just building forms and surveys. So everything that doesn't fit into that, you see competitors obviously growing horizontally, building a suite of tools. There's a lot of, you can build CRMs, right? You can build PDF generated for, you can do a lot of things in the form space. A lot of things to which we said no, just because it doesn't fit into just, is it related to just building a form or survey? There's things we've been around for 5 years. We don't have really advanced analytics yet, and it's necessary to add it, but there's other players like a SurveyMonkey. They were very heavily focused on that. For our audience, it seemed a bit less important, I would say. So there's a lot of decisions there that we made where we just basically said no. We do try to ship the most requested features, because if thousands of people have asked, it must mean something. But usually we just say, like, is this a tally? Does this fit tally? Doesn't it go too far outside of our scope? And if it checks all those boxes, then we will add it to the product. But you can very easily end up with a very bloated product. I often give the example of Jotform. Jotform is an extremely powerful product. Like, you can do anything with it, right? But you can also get lost, and that's something we don't want to end up with a product like that. Even though you could probably make a lot more money and make more people happy, it is just like intentionally saying no and keeping things simple. And also allowing lots of integrations so people don't get stuck. But if they want that extra functionality, you can probably do it with Make or NA10 or Zapier or anything like that. Yeah.
Super interesting. And you said, by the way, earlier then, like very early in this, like in Tolly's journey, you made a radical choice. That was like a big part of Tally was actually free.
Yeah.
You've got paying users. I'm not saying the opposite. But like I remember using Tally for a long time without having needing to pay actually because of my usage. Was that more of a growth mindset, like growth hack, or a deep product belief in the end?
I think both. We built Tally because we changed the pricing model. Just because it was a bit of a frustration that we had. Like, we had these Google Forms, pretty powerful, but also free, but not customizable. Then we'd use Typeform, and that's a product we also really loved. Very customizable, but then quite expensive. And actually, we built another startup before this, and we built a waiting list, and we wanted to use Typeform. But then when we hit the 10 submissions a month, we got stuck. And then that's actually how we started talking about, like, that's just not a nice experience. Like, you punish people for growth. Like, it should be the opposite way. Obviously, the economics still need to make sense. But so that made us think, like, hey, what if we can just abandon the volume-based pricing, offer everything for free, which is also something we had to do, by the way, because if you're a small team, you enter a super crowded market, right? It goes a bit against every startup playbook. But you have to do something drastically different. And we didn't want a sales team, we didn't have the marketing budget, and we didn't want a big team in general. So we were like, we will need to offer a lot for free users, because forms are viral by nature, right? You create them to share with other people. Free users have a small Tally branding on their forms, and that's how new people discover us. So once we had our first 1,000 users, which we found them through cold outreach, the flywheel started spinning and the product started selling itself, which was the dream. But we intentionally chose forms because we knew they were viral by nature and they could sell themselves. So that's kind of where that decision came from. And so the free plan has been crucial. We wouldn't be here today without a free plan. We wouldn't have never been able to grow. at this pace, I think. Yeah.
It's nice, and so it was like a true conviction since day one.
Yeah.
And looking back, if you had to do it, like what would you do if what would you do differently if you had to rethink the pricing from scratch? Would you do it like the exact same way or in a different
I
way?
think I would do it the exact same way. We also haven't changed our pricing, which is crazy. In 5 years, we haven't touched
Never.
it. Never. We also, how we chose the pricing, we literally just we made a list of all form builders and we checked what's the cheapest plan they offer. And it was like 29 a month or 26 euro. And we just chose that. And that was our, only price, so our highest price. And we stuck to that for the past 5 years. We never really experimented with it. So I wouldn't change it. We would maybe give even more away for free, because that's just the engine of our growth, the free users. Yeah.
Right. Let's use a big buzzword here, PLG. I think this is the one thing that you know about. And when you think about that, like so product-led growth at Tolly, is there like a specific, several core principles or tactics that you deliberately choose to apply on the product? Or was it like very natural in the way you actually build it?
Some things were more natural, but most things were quite deliberate. I think, well, just the choice of going for forms, obviously, because they tend to spread. So any type of product that is made to share seemed interesting for us. Besides that, everything. Every friction we could remove, right, to just give as much value as fast as possible, we did. So it came back in, not having to sign up, giving everything away for free, just making sure that if you try it out, there's nothing blocking you from just experiencing the product. I think that was very important. And obviously the free plan helped a lot there. Something else I think you need to have, the market needs to be big enough, right? And so for us, every business needs forms at one point. We don't need to explain what forms are. People know, what it is and why they need it at one point. So we don't have to educate the market, but we could just innovate on product and pricing and just claim like 1% of this massive market. And then we would already be immensely successful.
Yeah.
So that definitely. What else? I think those are the core principles behind the flywheel. And I think there's maybe one that is really crucial, is that we talk to users nonstop. So the early users could join our Slack channel, and they would give us a lot of feedback. And by doing that, and by shipping what they wanted every day, we also turned them into big Tally fans, people that are still using the product today, and people that also started spreading the word. And word of mouth is extremely important if you want to have a product-led growth motion. And because we actually listened and reacted and offered a free product, we helped the word of mouth a lot, and that again helped our product-led growth. So I think that's kind of how the mechanism behind it works. But I feel a lot of companies dream about PLG.
Yeah, a lot.
But they don't want to support free users, right? They want to have higher pricing. And I think they often have tons of like steps, onboarding surveys, like a lot of friction, and maybe not even a free trial. And if you cannot offer that, then I think it will never work. So it has pros and cons, of course. Yeah.
For those companies, my opinion is that it really depends on the the founder's philosophy, but also if they are like whether they are VC backed or not, because you can get pressure
Yes.
from your investors. And when you get VC backed, like normally, like maybe not in 2026 as it used to be, but normally you will just hire a lot of people. And so, you
Yep.
know, having more people on the company would actually make your product more complex because they are looking for something to do on the product. So, you know,
Yeah.
and in your
And
case,
yeah.
simplicity, sorry to interrupt. In your case, simplicity, I feel like it's a value. It's also very aligned with what you are because you are a very small team and you decided to actually grow. To grow totally being bootstrapped. So this is very aligned with the philosophy. I don't know if it's explained everything, but I feel like it's a
Yeah.
piece of explanation.
Yeah, totally. And I also don't think, it won't work for every product, right? If you
Yeah.
have a very high contract value or a long sales cycle, it's going to be difficult to achieve. Also, if you launch an AI product now, you're just running a race, right? You need money, you need to go faster, you need to have a
Exactly.
bigger team, I think. And for us, it feels more like we're somehow running a marathon. Like forms have been there since the beginning of the internet. There's tons of them. There's tons of successful ones. I think there's place for even more. So I think we're building in a different pace, and we can allow ourselves to. We have the option, right, to give a lot of things away for free, which is something, and make radical decisions. Like this year, we don't have a revenue target. There's
Okay.
just none. There's no revenue target. The only target is to deliver a better quality to the users. So we'll measure it with reviews, NPS scores, all of that. But that's not something you can do if you need to make more money or raise prices or grow faster.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's indeed it's a mindset, and it's also linked to what you want to achieve with your company. It's a very personal decision. Yeah.
Let me take 30 seconds to tell you about Stellar, the company behind this podcast. At Stellar, we help tech founders turn their product into a real growth engine because we don't see product as a cost center. We see it as a revenue driver, just like marketing or sales. To do that, we've gathered 30 CPOs and CDOs from top startups like Zenly, Photoroom, or Usign. We have already supported 80 companies, including TimeLeft, Joko, and Phoenix. So if your product organization isn't actively contributing to your company's growth, we are offering a free 30-minute audit to help you understand why. Just click the link in the description. All right, back to the episode.
So that's funny because when I hear you, because when I listen to you, I just feel simplicity in everything you do. So I feel like there is like nothing complicated, nothing new, basically at each step of the company development. Would you say that PLG still work the same way when you go from $1 million ARR to 4 million?
It changes. I think you attract more users that are not necessarily your ideal customers. You also attract a lot of abusers because you offer product away for free. So once we hit a certain scale, something that we have to battle with was tons of abuse, people creating phishing forms, people abusing Tally to send mass emails, through our settings, us getting blocked in the States, in different parts of the world. So that's the downside.
Yeah.
And we developed systems, and now it's under control, but that's obviously something that comes with it. The same is customer support that we offer for all the free users. So the moment you have more than 1 million users, there's a lot of customer support. And I think for us, it's still okay. We have around 35 new tickets a day coming in, but for 1.5 million users, that's I think a really good
the ratio is low.
Ratio. And again, because we keep the product simple, because we document everything in the help center, like the simplicity also helps to reduce customer support. So that helps. I don't remember what question I was trying to answer.
No, you were saying that there are some abusers and that
yes,
you know,
so
like,
that has changed.
Yeah.
And then as well, indeed, from going like from 1 to 4 million, something we noticed last year is that we got tons of new leads through ChatGPT, right? And we were very happy with that because we got thousands of new people coming in per week, something we didn't predict.
Nice.
But for us, and that's different than what I read online for other companies, the quality of the users was lower. And it was because there were more B2C users than B2B users. B2B users, we have a bit of a mixed audience. You can also use Tally privately. B2B users obviously are a bit more interesting. They pay, they stick around longer, churn is lower. And so now we're seeing churn going up. And that's actually mostly by people coming and finding us through LLMs, also getting the wrong information, upgrading for features that are actually free, but ChatGPT said they were paid. So us having to refund. There's a lot of that going on right now because people blindly trust whatever the LLM says, right? So that is it is getting more difficult to attract the right people and to optimize for everything. So I think that changes, especially, as you grow. And it's something we noticed last year. Yeah.
This use case is super interesting. How do you fix that? Like to fix the data, the answers from ChatGPT, depending on the requests of the
so
users?
you don't control it, right?
Yeah.
We can influence people finding us, right? So we make pages that are designed to be crawled by the LLMs, right?
Yeah.
We measure that, so we have a bit of an idea of how that works, but we still don't fully, if it hallucinates something, I'm not sure if I don't think that's something that we can control because the sources that are being used are also not always correct, also not always used by us. There's tons of listicles out there that do very well with LLMs. These are the 10 best freeform builders, and everyone just writes whatever they want in them, right? It's full of crap, to be honest. And so obviously the information is being used. So people find your product, they're like, oh, this cannot be free, I'll just pay. And then after a month, they discover that it was actually free. And so they want a refund and they churn. And so that's not good for our numbers. So how we will fix it, I don't know yet, to be honest. We're obviously happy with the new people coming in because free users also help us grow because they also still create forms. So it's fine. But it feels a bit like the wild west all over again. Used to be more like SEO, and now it's this AEO game that we're trying to play as well. Yeah.
And super difficult when it comes to acquisition to know where to put your focus now, I feel like. To be honest, I'm like a bit lost sometimes. I'm like, wow, where should I go? Is what we read on LinkedIn real? Is it like a very niche trend, or is it like a huge trend? It's not easy.
It's not easy. I think we kind of chose, and again, in trying to keep things simple, for us, there's a couple of things that are super important. One is community. Everything that has to do with spotlighting people that use Tally, but also meeting people in real life, meetups, the things that don't scale really. That will be a really big focus for us. And then a second one is building in public. It's something we've been doing since the start, but just sharing the story. It really helps with creating transparency, but it also builds an audience, and it's how people also start to discover Tally. And that kind of originates from our indie hacker times, where you would just share anything and you would connect your Stripe account to indiehackers.com and it's public. And that's like what everyone did. Now it's called, founder-led marketing on LinkedIn, but this is just what we've been doing from the start. And another thing is social listening, as in, if there is an interesting conversation about someone that has a problem or someone is looking for a form builder, let's say on Reddit, then we make sure we're there to answer. And that also helps with the whole AEO strategy. And I think for me, those three things are the most important ones to to invest in. So for us, it's not really, it's not nothing paid. It's not ads. It's not sponsorships. But it is really more community, and then trying to show up when someone actually needs you instead of pushing.
Yeah. I was about to ask, because in like early in the podcast, you said that our outreach was a big thing, especially in the beginning.
Yeah.
But now you're talking about communities and meeting your users, meetups, and initiatives like this. Which of those things really made the difference in your opinion, or still make a difference according to you?
So the cold outreach, we only did that the first year.
Okay.
And that was to get the first users. And then we never did it again. But I think it was crucial because it was just me DMing people that I found on Product Hunt. And they had upvoted similar products or form builders or anything related to no code. And we would just ask like, hey, would you like to test this and give us your feedback? And we think you might find it interesting because of your background. And so I did that it was like 6 to 8 months. So we DM'd thousands of people. It was not automated. It was just a Google sheet and, me sending messages, then us getting the feedback and Philip building at the same time. And I think that manual phase was crucial to get the first users, to get some volume, right? But also to get the feedback. And then only then the product-led growth started working. But obviously it's not something we have to do anymore right now. We don't do cold outreach or anything like that. And I really believe it's a combination of things. What you want to do is if you need a new product, right, this afternoon, how do you choose it? Like for me, I either ask ChatGPT or I ask friends or colleagues, or I check what the people that I follow or the people I look up to or the people that share interesting content, what do they use? And so that's kind of where we want to be. So we want to be like, oh yeah, Tally, I read something on LinkedIn, but I also read this newsletter and I heard a podcast where, the founder says something and like, maybe I'll try it out. Yeah. Or I'll ask ChatGPT and then we need to make sure we're there. So that's part of the strategy. And it's basically just trying to show up in as many places as possible, but then also giving back to the people that have helped us grow. So they in the end also promote us even more. And I think all of them are equally important.
Yeah. You said that at some point you stopped cold outreach. How do you personally decide when a non-scalable effort, if I can say so, is still worth doing?
For us, it was when it just... the product started growing and people started signing up and we didn't really have to do anything for it. So it was like somehow finding product market fit, I think, or figuring out the formula of how it works. And then we figured, okay, this is not necessary anymore. Or if we do tons of things, unscalable manual things, but then once you're like, oh, this works, okay, now I'll maybe automate it, or now I'll make it a bit more efficient because we've figured out the formula. So we always just try to just do things manually, and then definitely no over optimization. And then the moment you're like, oh, I figured out how to, show up on ChatGPT. Okay, now I'm going to try to automate or maybe put more people on it. But like never from the start. So we're always very, very careful, I think, in that way. Yeah.
Right. Let's talk about, so we've talked about PLG, which is like a big thing for Tally. And something I like to discuss about is like, we've seen companies like Linear or Notion that we talked about earlier that really accelerated once they added a sales team to their like product and current team. Is that something you considered for Tally at some point?
No. So, we understand that is the way to grow into a really big company.
Yeah.
But we also try to be honest with ourselves And we are builders. We're not managers. We don't get excited by a big team size. We also don't get excited by building a product for larger corporates. It comes with service level agreements. There's compliance. There's a tons of things.
Yeah.
And we just figured that that's just not something we're interested in.
Yeah.
Even though it might, slow the company down. We're really seeing this on the long term, and we want to build something that we still enjoy doing in, the next 5 years, for example.
Get it.
And we know that just personally, what we get energy from is, it's a small team, it's lean, we can still build ourselves, we don't have to manage politics or anything like that. And sometimes it might sound less ambitious. I don't think it is. I think it's just a choice for very heavy focus, and just for doing what we enjoy to do.
Yeah, I get it totally. Because you managed in the past maybe to notice that this is not like the thing you like to do?
We both had like smaller teams, I would say up to 5 people. And it worked, but if it's your own company, it's something else, right? There's payroll, there's all this admin that comes with it. And I think once you're with more than 20 people, things become a bit more complex. Everyone you add slows the team down, even if they're great people. There's more meetings, there's more structure needed. And I think that excites us less. Some people are great at doing this, right? Scaling the teams, managing, and it's just not us.
Nice. Okay, so let's switch to maybe topics around like brand, because I think like, I don't know how, I'm super interested in how you perceive Tully's brand. I feel like you've got like a very great brand for a company that started a couple of years ago. And I feel like it's a very loved product. Maybe I'm biased here because I'm talking to you, and also because I'm surrounded by people who love Tully. Yet you never apparently invested heavily in branding or like traditional marketing. How did you think about that from day one, if you thought about it?
So for me, and this was not really something strategic from day one, it's something that kind of grew and that I realized more later, is that the product is the brand. And for me, those are not two separate things.
Yeah.
Like, how you experience Tally, that's how you will talk about it. Also the simplicity comes back in, we have like a lot of illustrations that we use, but besides that, it's a very simple brand. And again, because it had to be, like, Tally's brand is actually built from a free illustration set that we found online. So there was this Brazilian designer that we've never met, and he just made these illustrations, and we downloaded it. And that is, I think we were over 1 million ARR, and we were still just using this free illustration set. And you could like play around a bit with it in Figma, and I would just reuse it for everything we did. And then one day we were like, hey, this is crazy. Like, we should reach out to this guy and tell them, first of all, like, do you know we've built this whole brand out of this free kit? And do you want to do you want to do some more work for us? And that was Carlos. He's in Brazil. We've actually never met him. And so now, since then, like every couple of months, he just makes a custom illustration for us, and that's it. So that's
so cool.
That's the visual brand. And then everything we share or do, it usually has screenshots of the product, and the product is simple, the marketing is simple, so it just makes it easier as well, because I'm not a designer. We still don't have a designer in the team, right? That like we're actually looking for one now. So it just had to be simple and clean for me and for Philip to be able to work with it. And then I think a big part of the brand is also our story. We're a bit the underdogs. We're bootstrapped. maybe a bit different. We also share a lot.
Yeah.
You know, you will see me a lot. I will be very transparent about the journey, and so I think that helps. And then I also think, you know, if you are a Tally user, we will make sure that you get helped within the hour.
Yeah.
That's our goal. And that we will also actually listen to your feedback. And I think those are the ingredients. And I'm also not 100% sure how, but I always feel like this was our highest goal, is when people say, oh, I love Tally. Like,
Yeah.
who says that about a form builder? That's like the highest achievement that we can get. So it's always very humbling when I hear that. But I guess it's just because we just try to build an honest product that we can be proud of. And I think that shines through everything we do.
Yeah, we hear a lot about lovable product. You know, there is this new term that we hear a lot on the we can read a lot on articles saying that now we no longer have to talk about minimum viable product, but minimum lovable product or minimum lovable brand in the marketing space. So what you're saying, if I understand well, is that it's not just about the product, but it's also about what is like what everything is around the product, which means probably the way you communicate, the way you talk about it, the way, I don't know, maybe the philosophy behind it. So you as founders, but also the team. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's also something Notion does extremely well is they have these moments of delight in the product, right? Like they launch Notion AI and then there's this little, you know, the little avatar and you can change the hat.
Little face.
Like you would be like, oh, that shouldn't be part of the MVP. Well, it should be, because it's what everyone will play with. And it just makes it so much more lovable, you know, in some way. And I think that's something they nail extremely well in everything they do. That's also why they are a really big inspiration for us. And we don't have something really similar in the product, but it is something we're working towards. It's like, how can you make it like, you know, when you use Notion, I remember in the early days when I used it, I just wanted to spend time in it. Like I wanted to make more pages, or like, let me organize this database because it looks good. And, you know, you just want to spend time in it. And that's I think that's the ultimate goal. Like if you can do that with Tally, obviously forms are more like project based. You don't live in a form builder. But if it's so easy to use, it just gives you a nice feeling. I mean, at least to some people. And Linear has that. It's all the products that are built with a great eye for detail, with a lot of product tastes, each in their own segments, and a lot of, I think, love for craft. And if you really care about the product you build, you're not going to add shitty features. You're not going to ask someone 10 questions before they can finally sign up, right? You're not going to say, hey, it's free, but it's actually not. You know, you'll just build something that you would enjoy using yourself. And I think users feel that as well.
Yeah. Those companies have something in common, which is that their founder and CEO comes from design. So Carrie is from he used to be, I believe, the head of design at Coinbase, if I remember well, and Ivan in Notion was a designer, I think, previously, or maybe he's co-founder anyway. And I feel like the first time I used Tally, I was like, oh, this is very close to Notion in the way the interface was built. My question, which is like a live question because I didn't plan it, when I hear about what you're saying, I'm just thinking, do you think you took advantage of the lovable brand that was built by Notion? And so people by using Tally, they just maybe had the feeling that this was very close to Notion, and so they really liked it.
Totally. I mean, when we Notion is part of the reason why we started Tally. We were like, what if Notion and Typeform would have a baby? That's what Tally would be. And obviously the interface is heavily inspired by Notion, but also how community driven they are, even, part of the branding. So we're trying to move away from it a bit because we feel like we found our own thing more. But if we would launch Tally now, things would be different because at the time, Notion didn't have forms. And a lot of the Notion ambassadors discovered Tally, and Notion and Tally played very well together. And we also marketed in that way, like it's the best, simplest way to add forms to your Notion page. And it helped us grow a lot because the Notion users were very vocal again, and helped us spread. So we definitely tapped into the whole Notion effect. And probably if we would have launched 5 years later, it would have been more difficult for us to grow and to find those early users. Yeah.
Yeah, super interesting. Just before you talk about building in public, you choose to do that like very early. I remember your first article, which was probably, I don't know, maybe a bit after you created, you launched Tolly, but probably like right after. So you choose basically for the people who don't know, and I will just add the link in the description of the podcast on YouTube and on Spotify, and so you actually share all the metrics, decisions, struggles that you go through. Why was building public so important to you?
It came from a way of giving back. When we started our own startup journey, we were following a lot of indie hackers. And in the space, it's very common to share your revenue, but also your learnings. You'll always share what you did. And so we were just reading, and following people that were like a few steps ahead, right? Not like millions ahead, but just like really tangible advice. And then we thought like, there was Peter levels at the time. One of like Oliver Meekings, who built Senja. He also shares just everything. I mean, there's tons of people. The founders of Crisp have always been building in public. And just those blogs for us were like holy, right? Like there was like, oh, there's a new one. What happened now? What did they do? What went wrong? And so it taught us so much. Also because we didn't have investors or a board, or we were quite isolated. So that was just our main source of information. And we thought, okay, we'll just start doing the same. So it was also a way of content marketing, you could say, because I didn't really have anything else to share. Like it was like, hey, here's a new feature, and then this is what we did. And that became like a bit of the engine and of how we communicated. And in the beginning, it was just indie hackers. But then a few months in, we got invited to the Indie Hackers podcast. And the story was published about like small Belgian company challenging Google Forms. And it also made me realize like, wait, it's interesting. The story is interesting by itself. And I just started sharing on other platforms. And then it was Twitter, X, and only since last year, like LinkedIn kind of like exploded for us. But I've naturally haven't always been active on LinkedIn. But like since the last year, I guess, I don't know if the audience shifted or if more people started building in public on LinkedIn as well. But so it kind of became a habit and also a way to reflect, because every time we reached a milestone, I would like look back and try to analyze what happened, and then I would write it down, and then we would publish it. But it forces you to really think about it, and like and actually putting everything into words. Kind of, I don't know. It kind of worked therapeutically. It helped us a lot, and it became a tradition. So we kept on doing it, and I guess only a few years later, just people started following, mostly me because I'm the one, writing and building in public. And it brought us to really cool places all around the world. Like I went to speak at Web Summit last year, We were invited by Nathan Latka to go to New York, and I thought, oh, this will just be like the small meetup, but let's go, let's go to New York. And then I was like the opening speaker of this huge conference, as you know, small bootstrapped form builder. And I think those things would have never happened without us building in public, because it's just us creating our own PR. We don't have funding rounds to announce, we just have our revenue milestones that we can share. And we also, our competitors cannot do this because they're VC backed, the numbers are not public.
Yeah, exactly.
So it
That's
again,
a strong advantage.
yes, indeed.
Yeah. And can you attribute any business success to that?
We can. We actually ask when people sign up. We ask, where did you find us?
Yeah.
The biggest part is it's the product itself, right? Powered by Badge. And then we have search and LLMs now. And then it's a very big mix of podcasts, Reddit, social media. So we know, but again, it's not something that we measure one-on-one. It's not like, oh, I went on this podcast today and now I need to have 10 subscribers. It's not really how it works for me. But I just think it compounds. And it helps with the whole idea of like, sometimes people here come to me like, you guys are doing really well. You're like everywhere. And then I thought, how do I, like, if I try to reverse engineer that, we're not everywhere, but it's just, we pick certain places and then we try to show up, and it maybe gives, the impression that we're everywhere, but building with public helps with that. Because you just don't just share about the product, but you can also share about the way you work. I work together with my partner. People have questions about that, right? We're bootstrapped. Why do you do that? So it gives you more angles and more topics to talk about.
And for the people who'd be interested in doing it, or maybe who are convinced that this is very useful and that could actually bring a lot to their companies, I know this is very time consuming because I do it myself as well in a different way, but this is very time consuming as a founder. So how do you organize yourself to make sure you actually share enough, you participate to like enough talks or enough podcasts like this one, and then that you still have, like some time to work on Tolly and work out the user feedbacks, working on the product with Philip,
it is very unstructured, to be honest, for me. There's also no like metrics or goals. I tend to I try to say like, hey, maybe I'll only do podcasts on Wednesdays, and I try to keep all my other days open. I try not to travel a lot. So actually we only do like 3 or 4 events a year because I think it's very time consuming. And also it helps you decide, and you're more strict to what you say yes to. So if you only do 3, you'll be very careful with how to answer and where to participate. I think events just take a lot of time. I think, podcasts are a bit more easy to fit into your schedule. But the writing, it takes time. I don't plan it. I also hate it when I see founders having ghostwriters, because I think you can always tell, or 80% of the time, when it's like too scheduled, I don't know, I think authenticity is very important. If it's not natural, I think you can do it in a very scalable way, a lot more structured than I do. I mean, you can say, I'll write one day, I have these ideas, I'll write them out, I'll schedule them, and then I'll check in again next month. But I feel like part of it is as well, you have this idea, I'll just like not to think about it too much and just post it. Also, not everything needs to be too polished. You just share, but you also need to be there to react and interact. If you just post and then you vanish, like that also doesn't really work. So it just became part of my role. And it takes a lot of time, but I'm like, it's just one of the things that I need to do and that I also like doing. So that helps. And it also goes with ups and downs. Sometimes I want to focus really deep on something new we're working on, then I'll just share less. It's not great, for the algorithm and the growth, but
I know.
it's also just not a goal by itself. Like tally is always the most important thing. And if I have time to share, I will. That's kind of how I see it.
And are you the only person doing it, or are you helped by, I don't know, contractors or like someone in the team on the marketing side of Tally?
I'm the only person doing it. But I did hire, so there's a marketing manager joining us from next month.
Nice.
But I think actually to be able to free up more time for me doing this and the product marketing, everything else just keeps going, but I can focus on building in public. So I'm not planning to outsource it anytime soon.
Okay. Talking about team, you told me earlier that you are 10 now at Tolly, which is a small team, very impressive. What would you say has been your, let's say, most important is actually not the right word, but probably the hire that truly changed the company's trajectory?
I think the first one, and it's customer support, just because we were doing support all the time, me and Philip, and the company slowed down just because we couldn't build or market anymore. We were just doing support. So that took a bit too long. It was like the first 3 years, just us replying to every message when we were awake. And obviously at one point it doesn't scale anymore. So I think support is super important. Also just, it's good to get a lot of feedback, and we still do, and we're still very deep into it. But you also need to be able to focus once in a while. And if you constantly, because feedback is often, it's not negative, but it's things you need to improve, it gets to you. Like you start feeling that you're not doing well anymore because you're constantly reading what can go better. So once in a while, it's also good to just focus and, let it go and let other people handle it and then jump back in. So that's something we learned. And then engineers, because it was just Philip building by himself. But once the product reached a certain scale, there were so many things that needed to be optimized. So then it was first customer support. We have 4 people working on customer support, but they're actually part-time.
Okay.
Yeah. And then 3 engineers right now, plus Philip.
Yeah.
And
5.
then, but Philip is also handling product and design. And then there's me, which is more like marketing, operations, finance, all of that. And then we have Emily, who's also part-time at Tally, and she helps me with everything social media, also some social listening.
Yeah.
And then we have one more person joining next month. So that's how the team looks like now. But they're all equally important, of course. But I think the first one is the one that, makes a big difference, because it's the first step from just being with 2 people building to realizing you need more people, the team needs to grow, we need processes. And it can actually be a really good thing, for the company. So I think, the first one is the one I remember vividly.
Yeah. And with like all these new AI technologies that apparently help a lot of product teams or like engineers in many companies, since you are very kind of restrained by your size, basically, because you say 10 people, but if I understand well, there are a lot of part-time people, so it's not even 10.
Yes. No, it's less. Yes, it's less.
On the engineering side, I know this is not your kind of expertise, but I guess since you talk a lot discuss a lot with Philip, you are aware of what they do. Do they use these like new technologies or way of how do you say it, designing products now at Tally?
Yeah, our AI bill has gone up a lot the last year from not using anything to tons of tools. I think Claude Code is the most popular one right now.
Yeah.
And it's going pretty far. I think actually the engineers are turning more into reviewers instead of no one really writes code anymore, like those days are gone. But the real work, well, it's maybe a bit exaggerated, but the real work becomes writing the product specs, which AI also helps with, and then reviewing the code, right, and making sure that everything is correct, and that becomes a really important part of the job. They're also experimenting with actually having agents run autonomously and write and code by themselves, and that again is super interesting for us because it means we can do a lot more with just a small team. So yeah, extremely important. We're developing our own AI assistant as well within the product now, so it will also just help you to build forms just by using a prompt, but also design them, also troubleshoot. And that's a whole new new experience and challenge for us, but it has changed a lot as well for me, just marketing wise. You can just do so much more with just one person. Things we needed in the past, like copywriter or to write help center content, or anything like that, has become super easy.
Yeah.
Even for me, I have like this ChatGPT project where it really knows my tone of voice, and I just
too,
drop ideas in it, and it just really talks like me, and it makes my job so much easier.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's and I feel like we're still only in the beginning. I think it will change a lot more in the next years, but hugely important for us and for the output. We can deliver. Yeah.
I was about to ask about the AI like feature or thing you were doing in the product, within the product. So you just answered. How do you actually decide where AI truly adds value to the product versus where it's mostly noise?
It's a really good question. That's why we're also very careful with it, because not everyone wants it or has asked for it. A lot of people have, but also a lot of people are kind of turning against the whole AI needs to be in every feature. For us, it's twofolded. Like, there's a lot of people building very complex forms, and they get stuck with conditional logic, calculations, scoring, all of that.
Yeah.
If the AI assistant can solve those pains, then it just turns into a way better product experience for the user, but also into a lot less customer support for us. So that's kind of a no-brainer for us, the troubleshooting part, but then also the building part. And we're very strict on that. We only want to release it if it's actually faster than you building manually. And the power there lies in there's a part of content creation, like when you make a really large form, you need to also come up with questions, right? And the right questions. And all of that is just, we see people asking ChatGPT and then just pasting it in Tally. So, people are already doing it. We're just trying to make it easier. But also branding. Hey, just make my form look like this. Bam, it's there. It's something that I believe will make the form building experience better for everyone. But it remains just a feature within the builder. So it's optional. You can use it, but you don't have to. We're not turning into the AI form builder or anything like that. No.
Cool. Can't wait to see that.
Yeah. It's coming very soon.
Nice. Such a good teaser. Okay, I think we've covered like Tully's product strategy quite a lot of detail. I don't know if you see something else.
I don't think so. I think we covered most of it. But yeah, everything we do or is documented on its blog.tally.so. But if there would be any other questions, I'm always happy to answer them.
Yeah, maybe one last question, Marie, before letting you go. When you look at early stage startups today, what is a product mistake? What product mistake do you see founders repeat most often?
Building way too much and shipping way too late.
Classic.
And I think it's classic, but I do see it all the time. Building for a year in the dark, then big launch, never really actually talk to a lot of potential customers, and then realizing that you run out of money and it's too late, And I think that's like the classic trap. And I think the hard part there is that a lot of people tell me like, but it's not good enough yet to share, or people won't come back because I don't have feature XYZ. And the art there is to keep it very simple, but to already give some value and, the minimal lovable product. That's hard. I think that's hard to nail. And you can only do it by really listening very carefully and talking to a lot of users. And I think that's a part where I'm often surprised how people are just building with a lot of assumptions, but not actually talking to the people that might buy it. So I would say that's probably the biggest one. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you, Marie. It was super, super insightful. And super great conversation. And to everyone listening, thanks for being with us today. And see you in the next episode.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.